Like, subscribe, and share, family.
Jerusalem, the city of gold, a source of inspiration for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. The Book of Psalms says, "If I forgot thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning." But could it be that biblical Jerusalem is actually more than 100 kilometers south of the city we revere today as the Holy City? One group living in the Holy Land thinks so.
They would come and pray after they presented themselves. They would come and pray. And the most interesting part about this Pacific Western Wall, and this is the actual prayer, this is the actual Western Wall.
Yeah.
But understand something, this is not the temple wall. This is the Mount Zion wall that David created before Solomon created the temple. The temple was on this hill right here. This is Mount Moriah Hill.
Tel Arad is an ancient site close to the Dead Sea. It contains 5 layers of history, including findings from the biblical era. For the average person, it is indeed an impressive sight, but not a holy one. But Hoshua Amerial, who arrived here from Chicago in the late 1980s, is convinced that these are the remains of biblical Jerusalem. Recently, Hoshua and his family have started to tour the Negev Desert. Recently, Hoshua and his family have started to tour the Negev Desert. Recently, Hoshua and his family have started to tour the Negev Desert. Recently, Hoshua and his family have started to tour the Negev Desert.
Shalom, I'm Emmanuel Kadosh, 24 years old, and I host a travel TV show called Cruising Israel, where I tour all over the country, showing tourists the best sights to see. There's actually no trip to Israel without coming to visit the Dead Sea, the Negev Desert. The Negev Desert actually dominates about 60% of the Israeli landscape, so you can't really miss it. Sunrise is just something special. It's something that you'll never experience something like it other than right here in the desert. You can see it at the Israeli beaches, you can see it in Jerusalem, but seeing it in the Negev Desert is just a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
What's up, family? Today I want to show you something that I already know, but dealing with, is the Kingdom of Judah located in the Negev Desert or the Negev Desert? Which one is it? The reason why it's important because it tells us what the Hebrew people were being called by nation. Their secret. Had they been called Negevs or Negevs, meaning that's where they're from. Let's find out. So as you can see, as I Google Negev Desert, you get 2 different listings. First is going to ask you, are you sure that you want Negeh or do you want Negev? So as it asks you that, you'll also see it still gives you the same geographic location, but it's showing you the distinction between years when that desert was called Negeh, be it in the 19th century, and then when it's called Negev in the 20th century. Now I'm going to show you the long way, what I mean by this, and so you can thoroughly see that they changed the pronunciation and the spelling of the desert to hide the fact of what it was traditionally called. So let's look at it so this will be more clear to you, because this will serve as proof how they tried to intentionally hide the true historical heritage and identity of people that came in captivity through the transatlantic slave trade to the Americas. So let's start looking at Google entries individually, so we can start to see how the word was changed over the years. With this entry, we see it was published in 1872 by Thompson Cooper. The name of the book is Men of the Time, a Dictionary of Contemporaries. And on page 746, we see the Negev, or South Country of Scripture, and the desert. So the Negev represent the South Country of Scripture. 1875. George Henry Whitney, Handbook of Bible Geography. The Holy Bible, and AV with the Queen's Printer's Aids, 1877. Here's a German encyclopedia written in 1878. We see when it's translated it's written in Nega, or South Country of Scripture in the Desert. Conversations Lexicon, translated from Dutch, 1878. Edward Henry Palmer, The History of the Jewish Nation, 1883. Peterman's Mittelungen Globus, 1883. Written by L'Abbe Trochon, 1887. A French version of the La Sainte Bible, PGM. August Peterman, Ernest Bem, and Alexander Sussman, 1883. Myers Conversations Lexicon, 1890. Jumping to 1911, we see the word still being pronounced nega in this book called The Plant World. So we see here even up to 2002, the word was recognized as negeh, nega, and was written as such. So we also see nega was part of the language of Dutch, German, and French as well. So we can also recognize that this is a widely used spelling of the word throughout Europe. So educated Europeans will be familiar with this term associated with the desert of Jerusalem. So when did they actually start using NEGEV or NEVGB as the spelling for Negev? So first, let me look at when they first created the nation of Israel, which was on May 14th, 1948. And the creation of the nation of Israel be a benchmark for when the word changed. So let me Google search Negev and see when it predominantly starts to be written as NEGEV, Negev. The earliest digitized book online I find of the word Negev is Journey to Negev by C.Z. Ploetzel in 1947, which we are now aware that this is only 1 year before the nation of Israel is created. So, in my mind, this means that NEGEH is most likely the regular version of the word Nega, is the regular pronunciation and spelling for the Negev Desert before the turn of the century, which means Negev, Negev, is probably a lesser known or later rendition of the word that came around the time of the nation of Israel was created. So continuing to study this out, we can see even later postings of the word Negev associated with Judah. So again, if you know that the pronunciation of it is Negeh, you will find direct correlations in books that still write Negeh for that desert. These are facts that cannot be denied. To see how all this ties into the Bible and to the heritage of man, watch the Nigger Gospel, a light unto the Gentiles, a reparation to the remnant of Israel, right here on Oracles of Zion, Forgotten Christ YouTube channel.